Hello there and welcome back to another review. So to keep things mixed and varied with my reviews, I thought we'd be having a look at The Phantom here today, starring Billy Zane, and made in 1996, based on Lee Falk's comic strip, which I think came out around 1936. And I think The Phantom was originally sort of one of the first superheroes. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but definitely The Phantom was definitely in the early era of like what, you know, a superhero. This movie was directed by Simon Wincer, and as I mentioned, Billy Zane is our masked purple-clad hero. We also have on board Treat Williams, Kristy Swanson, Catherine Zeta-Jones, and James Remar, who I always remember as Raiden in Mortal Kombat Annihilation. He was also in The Warriors. He was in The Quest with Van Damme. James Remar been in loads and loads of movies. I don't think this film done overly well when originally released, but I think more than made up for it when it comes to sort of home media sales and VHS, Laserdisc and things like that. Now, this was a film that I was always curious about when it came out. I mean, for one thing, it was like, out of all the superheroes, out of all the comic strips they could have done, out of all the, you know, the plethora of superheroes there are out there, they decided to do a movie on the Phantom. Nobody asked for it, nobody necessarily even wanted it, but even still, we got a movie of the Phantom. You know, there were efforts in the 90s to do superhero movies. I'm largely thinking of films like this. There was Spawn, there was Blade and The Shadow with Alec Baldwin. And another thing, the Phantom was always one of my favourite characters, largely due to a small cartoon show that I'm sure you're going to know what I'm going to say, but largely due to a little cartoon show that used to be on during summer holidays, and that show is Defenders of the Earth. And ever since watching that, not saying I was like a huge fan, but it was a show that I had to watch if it was on. You know, Defenders of the Earth, absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved it. It was my first awareness of like the character of the Phantom, but I was definitely into the character, put it that way. So this was a film that I was more than curious about and intrigued about seeing. And what is interesting, I think Bruce Campbell was even he was sort of involved or interested, or he was in talks or something to appear in this movie, which would have been interesting. I know Joe Dante was attached to direct, and he helped with the draft of the original, initial script written by Jeffrey Boehm, I believe. And I think originally the script was actually meant to be quite funny and played tongue-in-cheek. And the film does have its sort of wink at the camera, tongue-in-cheek sort of moments, but it's largely, for the most part, from all involved, played relatively straight. It's actually quite a straight movie. Bit hammy, bit cheesy in places, but in a funny sort of a weird way that sort of works in its favour. Now, watching it again recently, you cannot argue this film is just pure escapist entertainment. It really isn't all that bad. I mean, as 90s superhero movies go, it's not a bad effort. It's very like an old-fashioned adventure movie with some very subtle Indiana Jones vibes running through it. And I think the film, if anything else, is especially when it came out, it was vastly overlooked. I think a lot of the time they were just picking superheroes at random. Let's try a film at that. I mean, we had Howard the Duck, you know, we had Spawn, we had why not let's have Phantom? I know Spawn come a year later, but you know what I mean, that sometimes it was just like they just pick random superheroes or random comic book characters. Let's do a movie at that. But I think the film is largely overlooked. The characters play their parts more than okay, the actors involved. And if nothing else, the film looks absolutely amazing. We get a great score topped off with that. We get exotic location. Visually, the film is very beautiful, and it's worth watching for that alone, because I mentioned talking about exotic locations and picturesque locales, and like I say, the score, and it is pure escapism is the only way I can sort of sum up this film. And what I do love as well about this movie in terms of the stunt work is it's all practical stuff, and the film does really feel like a tribute to that golden age of the classic action adventure movie. Green screen and CGI is used seldomly. The plot is very simple, is easy to follow, and it's the kind of film you could watch on a rainy afternoon, as I mentioned, for some pure escapist entertainment. It's like, if you remember back in 2006, 2007, probably 2007, when Kingdom of the Crystal Skull was sort of in pre-production, and Spielberg and that was shooting Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, they made a big thing that the stunt work was going to be all practical. They were going to hardly use any CGI, no green screen, and we all know what happened with Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. The Phantom, on the other hand, is very much, in a way, what Kingdom of the Crystal Skull should have maybe paid attention to, because this is pure stunt work. Yes, like I mentioned, there are CGI in it here and there, but the technology for sort of what you get now wasn't there yet in 96. So they had to just do it for real. They had to do practical stunt work. And the film is, like I say, is really better for that. One thing you can say about Billy Zane's Phantom and the character in this movie is that he is always optimistic. This is not a moody, brooding superhero like Batman. Yeah, he's quite one-dimensional, but the fact that a lot of the time he is smiling, he's dropping the odd quip, and you can't help a little bit but just go along for the ride with the Phantom. In fact, you've got a superhero that is always smiling, that is always grinning. It's like, let's just enjoy ourselves, and that's where the Phantom does sort of work. I mean, this was 1996, and looking at it now, it actually holds up more than okay. Yes, of course, it has its problems, but it's one of them movies that watching it again, it's probably better than it has any right to be. So the film opens in 16th century, where a merchant ship is set into by pirates, and a boy escapes to an island where the tribespeople offer him this ring, and he will fight evil and piracy in all its forms. And it's worth noting, this is like the quickest ever backstory in the history of films that you will ever get. It's just this boy found this tribe, he gets given this ring, I'm going to fight evil. That's all you need to know. That's all you're getting anyway. That's your setup. We then flash forward to 1938 and catch up with Quill, James Remar's character, who is driving along looking for treasure, getting a local boy to drive the truck across a rope bridge at one point. Not sure how this kid's feet would have even touched the pedals. I mean, James Remar gets this little boy who's a lot shorter than him to drive this truck, and I have no idea how this boy could touch, like, his feet could reach the pedals, but anyway. Like I say, sort of going for the Indiana Jones film. For the most part, the filmmakers succeed in that. Just think of it sort of as like an Indiana Jones light, and you'll be in the right ballpark. We get rope bridges, we get jungles, we get caves, we get all that stuff. They find this skull, and one of Quill's party gets strangled by like a voodoo doll. So the Phantom comes in riding on his horse and with his gun and starts chasing them as they drive away. Quill mentions that he has killed the Phantom before, and as action scenes go, it really isn't that bad. The action in this movie, it holds up. It's okay. It's I say, it's very akin to something you would get in a classic indie film. We have like the truck getting snagged on the bridge and sort of flipping round, and the Phantom and the boy having to like escape. Then after this opening scene, the Phantom reads up on 3 skulls made of silver, gold and jade, and it has been 4 centuries and no trace of them until today. So yeah, basically you see where I'm going. It's all about these skulls, right? The baddies want the skulls. The Phantom has to stop them getting the skulls. That's all you need to know. With this review, as I always do, I'll probably make the plot seem more convoluted and more involved than it actually is. But just remember, it's just about skulls. Really simple. Turns out Quill and his men work for the Seng Brotherhood, and we have Patrick McGoohan as Kit Walker's father, but he is like a ghost, and only Kit can see him, which doesn't really work in the film. Well, it's fine. It's more than an okay idea. As I say, you have to forgive me, I'm not in terms of the comic book. I'm not too familiar with the Phantom comic book and things like that, but it's like they do that. It's okay having like your dad's a ghost, fair enough. But it's sort of the way they handle it. It's sort of the way they do it. It just feels a bit jarring and a bit off. But anyway, I mean, I had a few questions at this point, like how could they find one of the skulls and know where it was? And if they are that powerful, how come the Phantom hasn't gone after them before to stop them falling into the wrong hands and things like that? No idea at this point where the boy from earlier is gone either. We then meet Diana Palmer, played by Kristy Swanson's character, returning home to Uncle Dave's and like her aunt's charity ball. We meet Treat Williams as Xander Drax, who is the guy who hired Quill. As always, whether like in these kind of movies, the girlfriend is like always a news reporter who works in the media, or knows somebody works in the media, or is like looking for a big scoop, a big story. You look at Vicky Vale in the original Batman. You got even Eva Mendes in Nicolas Cage's Ghost Rider. They're always a news reporter. That's usually what these people are. But in this film, lo and behold, Diana's uncle is the owner of the World Tribune newspaper. I can't believe. So her uncle owns the newspaper. And her Uncle Dave doesn't trust Drax and knows he is a bad guy and he's on a quest for supernatural power. Dave Palmer explains this to the mayor and the police commissioner and shows them this symbol of the Seng Brotherhood, which is traced to the Bengala jungle, to which Diana wants to go and investigate. So you sort of see where this is going. She's all on board. She wants to go. The commissioner informs Drax about what Dave Palmer told him, who then actually kills the librarian by microscope, as Palmer knows he has been doing research in the public library. I guess death by a booby-trapped microscope is definitely one way to go. I mean, it's different, a booby-trapped microscope, but Diana on her flight all chilling out, then some air pirates led by Catherine Zeta-Jones' character hijack it, and suddenly the boy from earlier, Zach, is back with the Phantom, who has got wind that the plane has been hijacked, and it's one of them films where all the plot and what happens sometimes fits together a bit too conveniently. It all comes together a bit too Oh, that's worked out. It's funny how that's all sort of come together. But anyway, it's not that kind of film where you can sort of pick. I mean, you can pick this film apart and rip it out, like rip it open. But it's one of them films where it does sort of set out and it achieves largely what it sets out to do. So Zach, the young boy, takes the Phantom to the bad guy's ship, and he's like, "Okay, Zach, you can go now." So this poor kid has to like walk all the way back. Like Phantom's got his use out of him. It's like, Zach, get out of it. You're done. So Phantom comes to Diana's rescue and he knows her, go figure. And it's worth noting that the Phantom, for the vast majority of the movie, especially up to this point, has done nothing overly amazing or groundbreaking, nor do we really learn much about his powers, because the Phantom's character doesn't really have any. He's just a guy in a purple suit with a horse named Hero and a wolf named Devil and a gun. That's largely all the Phantom is. I know there's a lot more to the character than that, but on the surface, that is really all you get. So Phantom and Diana escape via seaplane, which leaks fuel, and we get a really impressive stunt sequence here with these two climbing out of the plane whilst it is flying. Nowadays this would have been loaded with CGI and green screen, but it's a very impressive action scene nonetheless. It's very contained, impressive action sequence. Like I say, even now the film looks so really fantastic. So his horse comes to their aid, which they miraculously land on, and Quill's men give chase. And what gets me is we've met 3 villains so far, and Drax, Quill, and Catherine Zeta-Jones' character Sala. But none of them seem to be the main one. I mean, I know Drax is the main villain, but it's we got 3 people here, and then it's they've all had sort of relatively equal footing so far. And to be fair, a lot of the time it is Quill, James Remar's character, who is the main villain. So the rope, this tribe come to their aid, and I do love, as I mentioned, how the Phantom is always smiling. This is a very positive, light-hearted superhero movie. And a smiling superhero is a breath of fresh air, rather than, like I say, a mean, moody grump. Let's have a superhero that smiles all the time. As I mentioned, the film, if nothing else, is truly exotic and picturesque. So no sooner are they in this skull cave, and he gives Diana a necklace for some reason. They meet Captain Horton, who knows her father and tells her the symbol her father gave her is of the Singh Brotherhood. So Drax is mad that Diana got away, and Catherine is like, "I think the Phantom is in love with her as he didn't pick me." Okay, right, so where did that come from, and what has that got to do with what we're talking about? I have no idea. I mean, does it even matter if he's in love with her? It really doesn't really matter. The fact is, these 2 people who you were after got away, but the ego on this woman, she's like, well, he must be in love with her because he didn't pick me, so there's got to be love. I'd say how she comes to, I don't know what it's got to do with anything, and how she even come to that conclusion. The Phantom arrives in New York and for some reason didn't bring any money to pay for his cab ride. Drax now has the skull of Tukanda, and when it's with the other skull, she'll show the direction to the third. Ray, one of the guys who works with Drax, wants out of his business meeting, so naturally Drax just, spears the crap out of him. He wants out and he just spears the crap out of him at this meeting. I was saying the Phantom smiles a lot. Well, actually, Drax smiles a lot as well. Even our villain in this is actually quite a chirpy, cheerful kind of villain. He's not, again, he doesn't really, what he's doing, some of the actions is evil. But by and large, he is quite happy too. He's a jolly villain, even if he does have sort of murderous tendencies. So the Phantom, as Kit Walker, knew Diana when they were both at college. They learn one of the skulls is in the Museum of World History, even though they've been lost for centuries. But if one of them is in the Museum of World History, and she's like, "Where did you go?" And he says he had to return home as his father died. I mean, how she does not know this is he is the Phantom, I have no idea. Has the same voice, he's the same height, and he wants the skulls returned. So Drax turns up, and you would have thought he would have gone for this one first, as it's closer. But he went for the one first that's in the far off jungle first. There's one in a museum just downtown. He doesn't go and get that one first. But anyway. So the skulls point their lasers at this destination on this map on the wall showing where the other one is. And I'm not sure what would have been the result if the map wasn't there. These 2 skulls together and they show the location of the third. So if this map wasn't on the wall, what would they have done? Would they have just randomly drew a map or something? I don't know. At this point, still haven't really fleshed out who the Phantom is for those of us who don't know. So if you're going this complete novice, no backstory of the Phantom, no idea who he is, you don't really get much in the way of sort of the backstory of the character. You get, like I say, it's sort of drip fed to you in small doses. They do sort of expand on it, but and oddly enough, they do that at the end of the movie. So you're moments in the movie, you're sort of going, why is that? Like, who is that? Why is he seeing his ghost? Why did James Remar say he killed a phantom before and things like that? Like some of the dialogue in this movie is too good as well. Such lines as Drax saying, "What is your name?" "Kit Walker." "Who is Kit Walker?" "I am." So Drax finds out that they have to go to the Devil's Vortex, which is where loads of ships have disappeared. Kit now turns into the Phantom. I mean, surely they must have put the puzzle together by now, as Kit has all but disappeared and the Phantom's shown up. Had to love how the Phantom has like no Batmobile or anything like that. He's just running out in the front of the public and he has to get a cab. You know, he has to rely on public transport, the Phantom. So, you know, he is limited, but so he has to get a cab. So he grabs a horse to pursue Drax. Then his Patrick McGoohan, like the ghost of his dad, appears in the back with him and they have a chat and congratulates him that he has found a girl he likes right in the middle of a chase. He's talking to somebody who the cab driver can't even see. I mean, you would think he's a bit cuckoo at this point. But I'd say it's a bit trippy the way he just talks to his dad openly in front of a stranger. It's a bit odd. But he's in the middle of a chase. He's more concerned that he's found a girl he likes. Like I say, it's not that I have a problem with this. They just don't flesh out the idea of the previous Phantoms enough. So he gets the whole way there by holding on to the outside of Drax's plane, which is, I'd say, I don't know if that's impossible. Dinah at this stage is just turned into like the usual hostage. We meet Kerry Tagawa, the pirate, as the pirate Cab I Sing. Funny actually, like he was in the first Mortal Kombat, James Remar was in the second Mortal Kombat, but Kerry Tagawa should have had so much more screen time than what he did. He's such, I mean, this is a fourth, like villain number 4 now, but he should have got more screen time than he did, rather than right at the end. I will say that Billy Zane's movement and physicality in the movie is quite awesome. Some more classic lines like "I could kill you and feed your pretty pink ass to the sharks." So yeah, we get some great one-liners here. So a fight breaks out. Suddenly, Catherine Zeta-Jones is a good guy. Zane gets fed to the sharks. The thing is, there is no urgency at the end. Like, Zeng is dead. Drax and Quill sort of run off. So anyway, the three skulls unite. Quill gets killed. Drax kills Quill with this like laser, and then the Phantom kills Drax with the power of his ring, and then he sort of blows up. So the lair blows up, and finally at the end he does explain this is what I'm saying. At the end he explains that there were 20 Phantoms before him. Couldn't they have just taken just an extra couple of minutes at the start of the movie, even if they just took a few more minutes just to explain the backstory, you know, how he trained and things like this, and the idea that he can see his dad as a ghost, and who were the Phantoms before and things like that. I mean, like I say, it's just so glanced on, but you get the backstory right at the end of the movie, when it should have been at least at the beginning, or if nothing else, around the middle or the end of the first third of the movie. But that's something I think they got a bit too, like, sort of back to front. So yeah, he explains there's 20 Phantoms before him. Kit and Diana have a kiss. She knows who he is. She leaves with Zala on a plane. Have the whole, like, they do what they did with the original Batman's, like the whole eye makeup, and then there's no eye makeup, like in terms of like eyeshadow, like you know, like Michael Keaton's Batman when he takes the mask off. And then we get a monologue from Patrick saying, like, one day Diana said she will return to the island. The music and the music is good too, by David Newman, and that is the end of the movie. But don't go too hard on the Phantom. I watched it again recently, and I hadn't seen it for about at least 10 years, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm not saying there were not yawn moments or not moments where I thought, what the hell is going on? But visually, the film looks great. There's some great stunt work in it, and like I say, it's one of them movies that was overlooked, but I just don't think you can really give it too much of a hard time, because it is entertaining. It's one of them, although it does follow certain beats that you know are coming. It's a bit of an old school film, and it's sort of like some bit of a lost era of filmmaking. But as I say, go and check out The Phantom if you've never seen it, if you want to see Billy Zane playing the purple clad superhero. So thank you very much indeed for watching. Hope you enjoyed the review. See you again soon.
Don't concentrate on the finger, or you will miss all that heavenly glory.